Welcome back. On Monday, two polls showed the Gillard government being hammered. Yesterday came one even worse. In the key state of Queensland, Labor was on a catastrophic 41% to the Coalition's 59%. And for the first time, Tony Abbott was preferred as Prime Minister. Yesterday, a clearly nervous Julia Gillard spoke at Victorian Labor's state conference and pleaded for her party to be patient, to not be spooked by the campaign against her carbon dioxide tax.
There is a reason they're begging for an election in 2011. Our opponents know their campaign of fear will be exposed as a sham, and then they will face the judgment of the Australian people in 2013.
Now, will it work? Joining me are our panellists, John Roscombe of the Institute of Public Affairs and Labor lawyer Liberty Sanger, a principal of Maurice Blackburn. Liberty, that seemed to me a plea to the party to say, look, it's darkest before the dawn, wait 2 years, she'll be right, I'm going to win.
Andrew, I think that's probably wishful thinking on your part. We are a long way from the election, and history does tell us that you really do need to wait until the election polls to get a good sense of what's going to happen. We only need to look back at John Howard's elections in 1998 and 2001 to see how quickly the polls can turn.
These have to do a U-turn. I mean, these are... Look, this Galaxy thing, about 60, that's disaster territory.
Well, the issues that Julia Gillard is tackling are hard issues. Carbon pricing is not an easy issue. It's seen off two Prime Ministers and two opposition leaders. It'll
see off Julia too, I think, Liberty.
Well, but the real issue is where does this all land? We're going to have the carbon price introduced. Compensation will be paid to households and to families. There'll be business as usual, and suddenly Tony Abbott will be revealed as the emperor with no clothes.
Well, that's the strategy. Look, it's a disaster now. It'll come good. Do you think this is going to work, John?
Look, I don't think it will, Andrew. The Prime Minister is hoping this is like John Howard's GST. It was introduced and people didn't notice it. But it could be like John Howard's work choices. People see it, and the more they see it, the less they like it. And if the Prime Minister wants to give people a choice, why can't she mandate as she should, and then we can decide?
The problem with your analysis, though, of course, John, is that this is a tax, if you like, on polluters. It's not on people. And there's going to be a compensation package paid to people. So this is not going to be anything like work choices where we have workers' rights and conditions undermined. This is going to be business as usual.
You call it a tax on polluters, it will get paid by consumers ultimately.
And the thing is, too, Liberty, even though it comes in, let's say it comes in and people relax, oh, that wasn't so bad, it still opens the door to a mother of scare campaigns. Julia Gillard, before the last election, promised she wouldn't give you the tax. There is a tax. After the election, it'll go up, 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 because that's the whole point.
And the Greens want it to go up too, Liberty.
But what we're seeing now, though, is Tony Abbott wandering around talking about the price of fish going up or the price of Weet-Bix going up. An utter nonsense.
No,
when in fact, on his side, what we're being told by Malcolm Turnbull is that the cost to the taxpayer of the direct action policy is going to be something like $720 a year or $18 billion over time.
Well, talking about Malcolm Turnbull, John. Malcolm Turnbull. Why talk about Malcolm Turnbull? It was interesting that Julia Gillard in this speech yesterday said, look at the Liberals, Conservative governments overseas have committed to much higher targets. Why don't you do the same? Which is clearly trying to capitalise on that stupid interview that Malcolm Turnbull gave to Lateline this week.
David Cameron took the view, as did his, obviously his colleagues, that the Conservative Party had to be seen to take climate change seriously. Britain has a Prime Minister with vision who wants to be part of that change.
Well, it seems to me that Julia Gillard is trying to exploit the chasm that Malcolm Turnbull is has revealed is there between him and Tony Abbott.
Look, what neither Julia Gillard or Malcolm Turnbull talk about is that in Canada, the Prime Minister Harper won a resounding majority without a carbon tax. David Cameron in the UK is now in coalition with a left-wing party because he was believed to stand for nothing. In New Zealand, Bill English, the Treasurer, says climate change is a fad. Australia is going it alone. Talking about David Cameron and talking about what the English are doing has no impact on Australia, and the Prime Minister isn't being truthful with the people.
Don't you think, Liberty, is interesting, though, about that speech where Julia Gillard clearly said, you know, please look at what David Cameron in Britain is doing, that she's trying to exploit a difference in the coalition, hoping it'll fall over?
I think the interesting thing about the UK is that we have a Conservative government there praising their former government, a Labor government, for the bipartisan approach taken to climate change, and in fact talking about being able to build on the investment in, say, renewable technologies because of what it was that the Labor Party did. And that is in stark contrast to what we see here with the deep politicisation of the carbon price policy. Remember, Malcolm Turnbull lost that ballot by 1 vote. The coalition is a deeply divided party on this issue. Deeply
Liberty,
divided.
Wishful thinking. Honestly, if Malcolm Turnbull went to somehow tricked up a vote, a leadership vote now, what would he get, John?
I agree.
A dozen votes.
I agree.
A dozen
I agree
votes.
with you on that, because the coalition has sensed discipline and they're seeing results in the polls.
Exactly.
But on the issue of carbon pricing, I do not agree that the coalition is united behind Tony Abbott's policy. It doesn't make sense. Tony Abbott cannot find a coalition, an economist to back it. He cannot find public support for that.
Let's try to get some unanimity here. This is getting very bitter.
We should all agree.
Let's agree on something. Bob Brown had a major brain snap. He's been coming under a lot of pressure. He had a terrible interview on the ABC with Chris Uhlmann, trying to explain his own ludicrous carbon dioxide policies, emissions trading and all that, or the carbon dioxide tax, and came out to try and claim he was the victim of a hate media, by which he meant actually not the ABC, but Rupert Murdoch.
I'm just wondering why the hate media, it's got a negative front page from top to bottom today, can't be more responsible and constructive. Let me finish. The Murdoch press comes out every day and bags out the Greens. But you don't like it when we take you on. Don't be so tetchy.
Now, Liberty, that was only a small grab of about a 15-minute rant against the Murdoch press. And in fact, the argument was with people from Fairfax Radio, the West Australian, and obviously is bitter about the ABC too, or at least one reporter, Chris Uhlmann. Is this a good strategy?
Not a good strategy to get the media offside. Like them or loathe them, they are your means by which you communicate with your public. And the reality is that the more power that the Greens obtain, the more responsibility they're going to have, and the greater they will be held to account.
John?
I agree completely with Liberty. Look, Bob Brown has been a senator since 1996. We've had to wait 15 years for him to get a hard question, and it came this week. Look, the mistake Bob Brown made is that there is a degree of loyalty from the Canberra Press Gallery to a broad soft left ideology.
And is shocked.
But they are actually more loyal to each other. And he has now taken on one, and it's going to be all of them hitting back.
Spot on. Look, that's terrific. Thanks for joining me, Liberty Sanger. Thanks for joining me, John Roscombe. And after the break, we name the winner of our first Alarmist Award. And we unspin this Spin of the Week.